Hi friend, welcome to today's Pick a Card. In today's reading, I want to explore the evolution of your ego. So I have prepared 3 piles, but let me tell you first a little bit of what we're going to get into in this reading. We are taking a look at how has your ego changed. The ego is a conscious part of you that reacts to its surroundings. Your ego wants to keep you safe. Your ego is very important. Ego deaths occur because we grow and learn, and we learn to adapt to situations, and we release protection mechanisms and patterns and habits that aren't necessary anymore the more we grow and evolve. The direction which we grow in will have a lot to do with our soul's journey. So what I have done here is prepared 1 card each that will give us an idea of our soul's journey, but we really want to dive into the past, present, and future of our ego's evolution, our ego's journey. Now, we're going to have lots and lots of different egos throughout our lives, or expressions of our ego throughout our lives. It's similar to if you think about your fashion style, how it has changed ever since you were a child to a teenager, to a young adult, to a matured adult, to an older adult, our fashion style changes, right? The clothes that we wear and our favorite items of clothes, articles of clothes change over time. So that's kind of how our ego evolves with us. So I'm going to be pulling some cards to take a look at our most prominent past ego, our most prominent current ego expression, and our most prominent future ego expression. And honestly, you can kind of think of it the way that Pokemon evolve, right? They usually come in sets of 3, I think. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. And what this reading is going to tell us is really kind of give us a confirmation of this was a learning process. This was something I was supposed to release. This is something I'm growing towards. And it is all in order to help support my soul's journey. Okay? Before I get into the 3 groups, let me just tell you that as I was pulling for these cards, at the bottom of this deck, we got awakening, energetic upgrades, a new way of being, integration. And I thought this was a beautiful card to have kind of like as an overview for all of us, because that's really what the soul's journey is about, is gaining awareness, growing towards integration. So for everyone involved here, we are actually looking at an ego evolution that supports our awakening. So that's a great start. So now, let me show you what I've chosen to represent the 3 groups today. We have 3 marbles, and I've used little seashells to hold them. So group 1, you have a deep blue marble. It's almost difficult to see. In person, it's more see-through than it's appearing on camera right now, I feel like. Really beautiful deep blue marble for group 1. Group 2, here is your marble. A really nice green, might even be jade, but honestly, I just picked these marbles up at a little shop randomly. They weren't identified as anything, so if you have an idea what they are, let me know. I'm pretty sure the blue one is definitely like a glass marble, but this could be something. That is group 2. And a group 3, we have a spotted little beauty. Look at her. Gorgeous. That is group 3. So I'm going to give you a moment to focus on these 3 groups and see which one is calling you the most. And then I will meet you at your reading. Timestamps are in the description below. Hi, Group 1. This is your reading if you chose this blue little buddy. And by the way, this is your seashell. We're going to set the 2 up here, and then we're going to get right into your reading. So first thing I want to do is get this card out of the way, and then we'll focus on your ego. So the Soul's Journey card for you is no. Wait, postpone, pause, say no. This is very impressive. And also, look how the blue is matching. Very impressive, like very striking card. And it's interesting how there's this, these lightning strikes, as if saying no is really, and it truly is, saying no is an exertion of power. So part of your soul's journey might have a lot to do with setting boundaries. Part of your soul's journey might have a lot to do with knowing when to say no, but also knowing when to wait instead of rushing into things. Okay, so we're not going to focus too much on your soul's journey. I just wanted to pull this card to give us an idea of what our ego's evolution is building towards. So we're going to set this right over here. What we are going to do is we're going to pull 3 archetype cards, and that will be past, present, and future. And then after that, we will pull some tarot cards to build upon that. It will make sense as I go. So let's see. So let's get a past ego. And again, this is only going to focus on certain expressions. We have many. Our egos are very fluent. We're always, even though the ego is in many ways somewhat rigid because it likes security, we have many forms of expression of our ego. So these will be kind of like the most prominent expressions. So for the past, for Group 1, here we go. We have artist. And then in the present, we have goddess. And then in the future, I'm loving these. Future. Ooh, I love this. Okay. So I'm immediately picking up a story. So we have artist, goddess, and exorcist. So with the ego of an artist, I'm thinking about collecting a lot of source material. I'm thinking of, whether it's a painter or a photographer or a writer, an artist really has to collect a lot of experiences so they can translate those into art, right? Expressing a dimension of life that is just beyond the 5 senses, inspiring others to see life symbolically. The shadow attributes here are using talent as an excuse to mistreat others, posing as the starving artist to elicit pity. It doesn't have to be as literal as that. So, a past expression of your ego possibly also had a close relation, like a close dependency on how what you contributed to the world was received. There may have been an ego attachment to gaining recognition. They may have been an ego attachment to being misunderstood. In the present, I'm seeing that you've released a lot of that and you've actually leaned into really kind of being your own audience and being your own, like, unfolding the beauty and nature of yourself for the benefit of yourself and not for the benefit of your art, meaning not what you produce, but for the experience that you have. And then the exorcist is actually through that, you're actually learning to really kind of get rid of some of those things that you've collected. So it's almost like there was a phase in your life where you were hoarding emotions or experiences. You were hoarding them because you thought you needed them in order to kind of understand who you are in relation to the world. Like it's kind of like you went around like touching all the hot stoves that you could find. And moving forward, I feel that you are actually really kind of getting rid of a lot of that instead of holding on to it. Instead of holding on to that in pursuit of creation, you're understanding moving forward from an egoic place that you really don't have to hold on to all of those experiences to create beauty or to experience beauty. However, there is going to be a need for you to be aware of this journey is something that has unfolded for you. That doesn't mean that everyone else is going along the same experiences. So what I'm trying to say is, especially with the Exorcist, a future expression of your ego might be that you won't just want to get rid of stagnant experiences within yourself, but you'll want to get rid of other people's experiences for them. You will challenge people to release possibly more than they are ready to. So I think that's kind of where the boundaries are coming in. Also with Goddess is that free-flowing experience that you're in right now, instead of holding on to, really kind of flowing through your emotions and flowing through sensations. It's a beautiful energy, but there is also a reminder here that the soul is trying to learn about boundaries, right? So in this state, we might be drawn to energies that admire us a little bit too much, that get kind of where we develop an unhealthy codependency, where we depend on their admiration, we depend on their approval, or we put ourselves on a pedestal and raise ourselves away from being eye to eye with certain people. So that is something to keep in mind. So as we journey through this, these are still very beautiful energies, but I'm going to take a look at, we're going to pull just a couple tarot cards and get an idea of how your ego gets impacted, what kind of experiences come up that really kind of shape your ego throughout this journey. I like that on The Exorcist it says light attribute, freeing yourself and others of destructive impulses. But then again, on the shadow attribute, it says fear of facing your own demons. So that would be when your ego kind of over fixates on other people's shortcomings. So this could be, especially because we're going from artist to experience to exorcist, this could almost lead into a path of becoming kind of like a critic, an editor, someone who is very, very opinionated about other people's work, especially if their path doesn't represent or kind of doesn't, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a specific word and it's not coming. But when someone else's path does not look the way yours looked, it doesn't mean that they are not also living in a true expression of their artistry. And that's the thing with our ego, right? Our ego keeps us safe, our ego keeps us confident, but our ego also kind of gives us some blind spots. So it's necessary to keep all of these things in mind, that our ego can lead us towards success, but our ego can also kind of lead us down a path where we kind of lose our objectivity. I mean, we don't really have objectivity is kind of kind of made up anyways, but you get what I mean. Let's get some tarot cards on your ego's evolution. I also want to point out that with this blue and with this blue, there's definitely some strong throat chakra energy here. So you definitely have things to share. You have things to express. And your ego is actually helping you. So I think it's beautiful, the energies that we have coming out here, because I'm not really seeing anything that would hinder you from that. But because of that, I think maybe part of your soul's journey is learning when you're overstepping, when you're oversharing things that where your opinion wasn't asked for, or where your criticism wasn't asked for. Wait, postpone, pause, say no. And because that's part of your soul's journey, your ego is going to push you in situations where you're going to bit by bit learn this journey and learn to have some distance before you speak out on your own experience or your own opinions. Okay, we have the High Priestess. We have the Eight of Cups. And we have the Queen of Wands. Beautiful. And we have the King of Swords at the bottom of the deck. Yeah, we are learning discernment. Overall, throughout your journey, you are learning discernment. I think you're definitely very willing to share your insights, and there are going to be a lot of people along the road that are really going to admire you and that are really going to value your insight and your drive and your passion. However, there is something where you are definitely part of your ego is reaching for a little too much, and that's why again we're getting this no. Like, you might have this experience where throughout your life you feel really good about yourself and you're like, yes, I designed my fate, and you know what, I'm gonna be delusional and I'm gonna expect the most, and then the universe comes in and it humbles you like lightning strike, right? It's going to be like boom, no, and it's going to feel so ego shattering, and that's for a reason, because the outcome is not what's supposed to sustain you. It's the passion within you that's supposed to sustain you. But you might be reaching for too much at times. You might be wanting too much, and I'm getting the sense that it is along the lines of admiration or attention. Like, especially if you're desiring, if you, and we're talking about kind of like the right now of your ego. If you feel like you're not getting the attention that you deserve, there is this sense of like not being satisfied with the level of admiration that you're receiving at this time. And yet with this Eight of Cups, I'm seeing that your ego is also not quite acknowledging how much admiration and acknowledgement you are actually receiving at this time. The High Priestess, along with this Artist card, is telling me that you knew from a young age that, you know, you were destined to be different or destined to be special. Like, there's something where there was this knowing of, I'm here to have a very specific experience, a very I think you were aware of being very gifted. No matter what way, whether that is artistic or not, the expression of the gift has an artistic flair to it. Let me see. With this King of Swords, I'm trying to decide if I want to roll my dice first or go for an oracle cards. With this King of Swords, there is definitely this action, this call to action of being more discerning. And I'm telling you, this is the second time it's come up, something about objectivity. I think you're very much in your own, this sounds so weird, but that's what I'm hearing. You're very much in your own juices, and you're very much in your own kind of realm. And there is definitely, you're meant to express that, yes. But there is something about objectivity and understanding how that fits into the world. Let's get some energies around your ego's evolution. This is a very kind of, and I expected that with this reading in general, but this is a very kind of abstract reading. So if you're having a hard time connecting with this, don't overthink it. It's okay. There will be other readings that are less out there. So don't make it fit if it doesn't fit, okay? So we have the 12th house, we have Sagittarius, and we have Uranus. I love this. So the 12th house is the house of the unseen things, right? The darker aspects of life. Sagittarius is an expansive energy, and it is an energy about learning. So it goes hand in hand with understanding and learning about your ego and where your ego is holding you back and limiting you. And really kind of this Uranus energy is really kind of giving me this vibe, this imagery, because it is about like expanding from there. But Uranus energy also asks you to keep in mind other people. Uranus is really about altruism and kind of evolution on a very broad spectrum. And so there's something here where I think part of your ego's journey is going from a very like internalized, like being very focused on your contribution, to being really focused on, look at what I've made of myself and I need everyone to kind of like acknowledge this, to how do you fit into this and how can you help others with this? Because especially with this Queen of Wands, right? The Queen of Wands is a reigning royal. The Queen of Wands has people that look up to her, and that's kind of what you want at this stage. But I think in the future it does come, but it comes differently than you expect. I think it comes with more vulnerability in a way that is less manicured. And that's what I'm picking up with this goddess energy, where it's like you share certain aspects, but they're very manicured and they're very kind of framed, right? You frame yourself. Look at how she's posing. You frame yourself in a very specific way. And with this Exorcist card going forward, your ego is going to let go of that in a lot of ways. And you're going to return to something that's a little bit more objective. But then, like I said, at that point in time, we're going to have to pay attention and make sure that we don't hold everyone to that standard, because you yourself were in this place at one time, right? It's kind of like a shifting of priorities that happens here. Let's pull some oracle cards. I don't want to make these too long, so I'm going to pull just from 2 decks, and then we're going to close this out. This is really supposed to just kind of be a little peek into where we're at. The path. And we have, the path is a number 8, indicating that, you know, the path is a winding road. The path is infinite. This is probably something that you have gone through in different lifetimes, in different variations. Let's see what else comes out. But the path also indicates that there's this ladder here, right? And once she climbs up this ladder, she has a whole different perspective. So once you get to this point, this transition from goddess to exorcist, you need to keep in mind that the people that have not yet gone on this path, that have not yet climbed up that ladder, they cannot inherently have the same perspective as you. And so it would be nice of you to kind of share that insight and to help people along the way. But there is this feeling of, with this exorcist, that you will have kind of this expectations, your ego, when you move from a purely egoic place, that you have this expectation that everybody applauds you for the path that you've gone on, and nobody knows but you. So your own approval is going to have to sustain you, but also there's going to be this expectation that people share the same viewpoint as you, and that's just going to be so difficult to do, because they don't have, quite literally, they don't have the same perspective as you. And let's get one last card for group 1. And we have Guardians. There's, you know what? This card wants to come out, so I will take it. And we have Death. Death and Guardians. Interesting. Especially with this exorcist, I'm feeling that, okay, and with Death, of course, we're talking about ego. Like there is the fact that it's like right over Goddess. I'm feeling that you might currently be going through or approaching this ego death around the Goddess aspect, and you might be very soon moving towards the exorcist energy. And if that is the case, know that you are not alone. Know that you are being guided to release some of these aspects, and you're not losing any progress as you're moving towards releasing. It can be really difficult to release, but also the Death card is talking about, you can't take it with you, that kind of energy. I'm really feeling we're going almost from a maximalist energy to like a minimalist energy. And this may have to do with, even in a spiritual sense, like collecting everything that you can, trying to like really kind of grab onto everything for hold, because you knew that there was a path, right? With this High Priestess and the Path card, you knew that there was a path, and you were trying to find it, and you were trying to make sense of it. So you were collecting experiences and insight and wisdom, and then feeling like I have so much, look at how much I have, like I'm really like, I'm really hot shit. And let's not take it that literal, but you know what I mean, hopefully. And then going to a very minimalist energy of, you know what, all I need is my guards, my guardians. All I need is really the knowledge that I have internalized. And that's what the Death card really represents. You can't take it with you. It's not about the material, and it is about transmuting experiences into new perspectives. So this is a very mental journey, especially with this King of Swords. This is a very mental journey, and it has a lot to do with pride and with passion and pride. And overall, again, the soul's journey is here to kind of wait, literally postpone, pause, say no. It is about boundaries. It is also about holding off on judgment. It is about really kind of knowing what to take on this journey. Whew, okay, I'm gonna leave it there. I really hope that this was interesting. Like I said, this reading is a little bit out there. I was called to do this today. I'll be having a more regular reading come out soon. So if this wasn't quite your jam, that's totally okay. But I do hope that it was interesting, and that it maybe gave you something to think about. And I do hope I get to read for you again sometime. Until then, take care. Hi Group 2, this is your reading. If you chose this lovely green marble, this is your seashell, by the way. We're going to set these two up here, and we're going to get right into your reading. So this is your Soul's Journey card. We have Leap. You go first, the universe will catch you. So, we are taking a look today at your ego's evolution, and this card is about your soul's journey, your overarching journey that your soul is trying to grow towards, but you're having a real life experience. And in the real life, not that your soul isn't part of your real life, but it's not a physically grounded experience that your soul is looking for. It needs your ego expression in order to have material experiences that kind of shape you into form, that give you this overall soul's journey, okay? So leap. So overall, your soul, over the course of your lifetime, your soul is trying to get to a point where you are more open to trust the universe, where you are more open to leap into things when you feel intuitively guided to do so. And this is definitely a lifelong process, because a lot of times we tell ourselves like, oh yeah, I've surrendered, and there's always more to surrender. So you go first, the universe will catch you, is where your soul is trying to grow. We are going to pull 3 cards now for past, present, and future ego expressions. Again, these are kind of like your most prominent ego expressions that we want to talk about at this time. And we're going to get right into it. It will make more sense, hopefully. I was just telling Pile 1, I know this reading is a little bit out there, so if you're having a hard time connecting to this one, don't worry about it. There will be more readings that come out that are going to be a little bit more matter of fact. This one is a little bit abstract, so don't be too concerned if it doesn't resonate. Let's see, past, present, and future ego expressions for group 2. Let's get the pasts. There we go. We have bully. Now, it doesn't have to be as literal as you were a bully, but we will get into that. For the present, we will take this one. Liberator. See, I'm loving this trajectory already. And then the future. Woo! Look at how these are all blue. We have night. All right, I am digging this. Okay, so here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing an evolution of, I'm sorry about the sun. There's really no way for me to block it out. It's a very sunny day today, and I'm doing this reading a little bit earlier than I typically do my readings. But I can never be mad at the sun. So the evolution that I'm seeing here is you coming from a place of understanding what it takes to truly stand up for people and also for yourself. So let's start off with bully. It says light attributes highlights your tendency to intimidate others, helps you confront inner fears that bully you. The shadow attribute is conceals deep fears behind verbal or physical abuse. Now, since we're talking about ego expression, this can have to do with, again, this doesn't define like your whole past. This is really just a prominent aspect to your ego expression at some point in the past. Had a lot to do with possibly really harsh communication, really kind of being really hard either on yourself or other people, being very judgmental, and also really being very much in general, I'm seeing that we have within your ego's evolution, there's a huge topic around control. So with this bully card, it has a lot to do with exerting control, enforcing control, and really kind of, worst case scenario, being at the whim of somebody else's control and therefore acting out in another place. So going back to your ego, it may have been that you've had to endure physical or verbal abuse, which then your ego wanted to assure you like, hey, you're A, not deserving of this, and B, you're not a victim, right? You don't want to identify as a victim. So then when we feel that way, we often turn around and then exert our control over someone else. So if we are suffering under the harsh control of someone, we then might try and find to see who we can exert our control over so that we don't feel victimized. So often that could be if we had to deal with an abusive parent, we might exert our control over a younger sibling or something like that, or even as simple as being in school, being bullied by a specific stronger, older kid, and then we exert our control on a kid that is weaker than us, something like that. That is possible. Again, it doesn't have to be. It can also have a lot to do with you kind of bullying yourself, and that can have a lot to do with expectations that were placed upon you. So going from the past into the present most prominent ego expression that we're dealing with is liberator. You are working through, your ego is trying to shed the past, trying to shed the control that this still had over you, right? Because a lot of times, especially when we're dealing with abuse, even once the abuser is gone, their impact can last for so long that we establish patterns where we still kind of enforce that initial abuse over and over. And so I really am happy to see this liberator card here, because it means that your ego was really set on like freeing yourself from the shackles of that kind of control. Oh, I just realized it literally says freeing yourself. The light attributes are freeing yourself and others from outmoded beliefs, releasing negative thought patterns. Shadow attributes, imposing your own tyranny over those you claim to liberate, ignoring legitimate constraints. So the way that can show up is that you might be in a place where you're feeling really empowered because you were able to undo the harm that has been done to you, and not necessarily even undo, but you've been able to transmute the harm that was done to you, whether it was internal or external, and then having the expectation for everyone to be able to do that. And unfortunately, not everyone is able to do that. It's a very powerful thing that you're working through, that you have kind of cracked the code or are cracking the code along your journey. And so you're really kind of in this place of, come on, I can do it, that means you can do it. And in reality, unfortunately, that's not the case. And so what I'm seeing in this transition from liberator to knight is that you will understand that unfortunately not everyone can do this. And then you will kind of put on your armor and want to do it for other people. But again, this is coming from an egoic place. So what we need to learn here is that your ego is currently in this area of recognizing like, oh, well, why can't everyone do this? And then we're learning, oh, there are many reasons why everyone cannot do what I've done. But then going into this place of, well, if everyone can't do it, then that must mean that I'm especially good at it. So it must be my responsibility to do it for everyone, right? And that's not the case. You are not here to take on responsibilities that aren't yours to take on, okay? Let me show you on the Knight card. It says loyalty, romance, chivalry, a love of honor. Shadow attributes, allegiance to a destructive ruler or principle, romantic delusions. And so the romantic delusions would be like, I have to save everyone, I have to do this, like I'm the knight in shining armor, right? And that's not to say that you won't be a great help, because again, this our ego has a dark and a light side, right? There are very empowering aspects to this, but there are also, it's a thin line. There are aspects where we have to watch out that we're not overreaching, so we're not being too stagnant in our egoic place. And let's take it back to your soul's journey. You go first, the universe will catch you. Leap. The soul's journey is asking you to trust. And what your soul's journey is also asking you is not just to trust the universe, but also to trust in the ability of other people to catch up with you. Because even though people might not kind of get control of their demons as, I don't want to say effortless, because I'm sure it took a lot of effort for you, but as impressively as you have, even though other people might not be able to be as bold as you in fighting their old demons, that doesn't mean that they can't do it in their time, in their way. And so there is definitely where the universe is asking you to trust in the way things play out in the universe. And the universe is in expression of itself in every human being, right? You are an expression of the universe. Your best friend is an expression of the universe. And so the trust in the universe is also asking you to trust in other people. And especially when we're coming from a place where we experienced a lot of abuse or a lot of really negative conditioning, and having to go through this journey of, I have to fight and liberate myself, feeling very like the ego will feel very centered in itself and very, very much like, okay, I have to do it, and that means you have to do it for yourself. But then again, we're currently at this place where we're recognizing not everyone has that kind of willpower. So then you feel like, oh, I have to do it for everyone. And you don't. You have to have trust in the universe that everyone can do it. That you are here to guide them when necessary, that you are great support to people, but you don't have to fight everyone's battles. Whew. Okay. Let's get some tarot cards to see how else this might express itself. Yeah, we have the Tower. This is definitely external. So this bullying attribute, this bullying aspect in your life in the past, where you were really kind of at the whim of someone else's expression of power, someone else's expression of insecurity, really, right? And that a lot of times when it comes to bullying, it's such a domino effect, right? Hurt people. So whoever was responsible for your abuse that you had to endure, they were likely enacting that kind of power because they felt a lack of power and control themselves. And then we kind of, we oftentimes just kind of repeat that pattern, but you are breaking that pattern, and that's beautiful. Yeah, see, with the Page of Swords, you're like, no, there has to be a different way to do this. This can't be it. So you're very brave in that aspect. I mean, look at her. She's holding like this this torch. He's holding the sword. Like I think, and especially because he's looking back at this, like no, there has to be a different way to live. And then we have the Hierophant, yeah. The Hierophant in this connection is definitely saying, it's like, well, it's this feeling of entitlement, but not necessarily of, oh, I'm entitled to help everyone, but more so like, oh, this has been bestowed on me by great honor. Like, the knight was a very revered position to be in because they were They might not have been royalty themselves, although I think most of them were typically like lords and stuff like that. But they might not have been a king or queen, but they were still very much respected, and therefore they belonged to the court in a very respected manner. And so there comes this honor with that, right? Love of honor. With the Hierophant is this, oh, this honor has been bestowed upon me, like it is my responsibility. And even with this torch, it's like you're coming out of the depths, out of the chaos with this light, like you're the chosen one. And I'm not trying to say like, oh, you're not, especially because we have this Ace of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. I'm not trying to say that you're not that you're not special. Absolutely you are. But what we're trying to acknowledge here is that when it comes to our ego, it's easy to, fall off one side or another, whether that is the light attributes or the dark attributes, shadow attributes. And when it comes to our ego, especially when we feel that we are called upon by higher forces, it can get really preachy really quickly. The Hierophant is the Pope, right? The head of church. It can be really preachy. But you are correct in the matter that, you have found a way to turn some of your darkest struggles into something that is really inspiring to other people. But that's the thing, you have to inspire, you have to plant the seeds, you cannot make the plant grow. It's amazing to inspire people, but you have to let them fight their own battles. So let's roll these dice, get some more information on how this energy may play out. We have the 9th house going very much in line with the Hierophant, because the 9th house is all about, and Jupiter actually naturally rules the 9th house. So this is very much 9th house and Jupiter energy here. The 9th house is the house of higher learning, higher understanding. It is it is a journey of the most expansive nature, so traveling far and wide to gain new experiences, to understand the world from a different framework, which is also that Jupiter energy. And then we have Virgo. So Virgo is asking you to be analytical about that, right? Not just adopting a new framework, not just adopting a new, especially with the Hierophant and this Knight. Going forward, your egoic place might have a tendency to, again, getting back to this energy of being a little bit preachy, you might have, within this progress of liberating yourself, you might have found something that works really well for you, and it might have to do with a spiritual belief system, or with any kind of belief system, really, right? Whether it's a form of self-help, whether it's a form of therapy, there's something that you've utilized that helped you so much, and that is going to put you in a place of believing like this is it, this is the way that it works, and this, I must teach it to everyone, because if everyone just knew exactly this practice, then they would be able to free themselves. And unfortunately, that's not always the case, right? Because every person has to find what works for themselves. So we have to broaden that worldview to understand that there might be certain seeds within that process that you learned that can be applied anywhere without the dogma of it, especially with the Hierophant, without the dogma, without the constraints of you have to adhere to this religion, or you have to adhere to this kind of system in order for it to work for you, right? So there is definitely something where the evolution of your ego is very impressive, first of all, because you're really, really like pulling yourself out of the depths in a very specific way, and then you want to help other people. But again, the focus is here on recognizing that it is not your responsibility to save everyone, that your responsibility was to save you, and you have done that, and that is absolutely impressive and amazing, and that deserves a lot of recognition. All right, let's get some oracle cards, close this out for group 2. Boop, it went flying. Look at that. We have so much expansive energy. The fact that it went flying, I don't know if you saw this. The card went flying and it literally took your soul's journey card, which says leap. It like made it leap. And that's the thing. Assessing this 9th house energy, this Jupiter energy, is very much this. It's assessing. It's taking a look beyond yourself, beyond what you understand, beyond what works for you, and understanding that, again, it's not your responsibility to save everyone, and also what works for you doesn't work for everyone. And that's ultimately like the overarching journey that we're on here. And look at all these blues. There's so much about like understanding, so much like mercurial energy. Especially with Virgo, that Virgo energy that came out here, that Virgo is ruled by Mercury. So assessing goes very nicely with that. This actually, assessing, this card is actually pretty much exactly Jupiter and Virgo together, because it is about like the expansion to understand, right? Look at that. We have nourish. I love this because if we look at this card, there's a mother breastfeeding a young child. And when we have gained knowledge about how the world works and we come across someone who seems a little bit helpless, and we take them in to nourish them, we have to trust that we can give them pointers, right? Just as with having a child. And this storyline in the background might very well have to do with you really standing up for your child in the future. But it has a lot to do with trusting, right? I mean, bringing a child into the world is like the ultimate form of trusting the universe, because you cannot, when your child is a baby, sure, you're around them 24/7, but at some point the bird is going to leave the nest, right? And so that is the ultimate expression of having to trust the universe, having to trust that you have given the child what it needs to grow into a young human being, to be able to make its own decisions and make its own path through the universe. And that's what I'm seeing here with this Knight card. So you can't be super dogmatic. You can't be like, you have to live by this rule, otherwise, my goodness, otherwise like the world will destroy you. Like that doesn't work, right? You have to inform people of like, hey, this is what works for me, and you might find something similar that works for you. That's beautiful energy. Okay, I hope that this makes sense. My goodness, I have so many like little tongue-tied moments today, but I hope that this made sense. I hope it was interesting, that it confirmed some things. Again, I know that today's reading is a little bit out there, but this is what I was called to do today, so I have to follow suit. But I'm going to be doing some more straightforward readings very soon again. Okay, so thanks for hanging out with me, and I hope I get to read for you again sometime. Until then, take care. Hi group 3, this is your reading if you chose this super cute marble. I really don't know what this is. I mean, it could be, I'm not even gonna try. I'm just gonna call it my Dalmatian marble. This is the seashell, by the way. We're gonna set this down here, and then we're gonna take a look at your soul's journey card. So just heads up, this is going to be about your soul's journey, and then in a minute we're going to get into the evolution of your ego. But the soul's journey is kind of like the overarching, like your lifetime soul's journey, why why your soul is choosing certain battles in this lifetime, and your ego is more of the experiences that you have, like on a very material plane, right? Oh, we have break the chain, ancestral patterns, healing, rewriting the future. I love that. Okay, so we are breaking ancestral patterns in this lifetime. That is not easy. And the people that usually have to do that never asked for that, right? At least that's what we think. We think we didn't ask for that, but that is not an easy thing to do. Breaking patterns, breaking our own patterns and habits is not easy to do. Breaking ancestral patterns and habits, whew, that is like excavating like entire lifetimes, quite literally. So we're going to get into it. I'm going to pull 3 cards: past, present, and future, most prominent ego expressions. So this isn't necessarily everything that defines your ego, but it's just in context of this reading, what Spirit wants to talk about, the most prominent expressions of your ego. So let's pull one for the past. We got one. We got child, magical, beautiful. The present. Whoa. We have priest. And then for the future. Interesting. Okay, immediately you're a very special one. Okay, so here's how this works. We have the past, the present, and the future, the most prominent egoic expressions. And your ego is very twofold. It's a very thin line. We have the light attributes, and then we have the shadow attributes. Your ego is a it's part of who you are. It's part of what makes you you, and it is also thereby shaped by your experiences, right? Your ego wants to keep you safe. Your ego wants to keep you in a place of security. And so a lot of times when we talk about ego death, we think that that means that we have to get rid of every aspect of our ego, and that's not true. There's a lot of essence that remains. We're just kind of reshaping, right? And that's kind of what I'm seeing here very strongly, that there's a lot of fine-tuning here. So let's start off with the past, child, magical, seeing the potential for sacred beauty in all things, the belief that everything is possible, the shadow attributes, pessimism, depression, and disbelief in miracles, believing that energy and action are not required for growth. So, child magical for your past ego expression tells me that there may have been a time where you were very hopeful and also very gullible, but not in a negative sense, right? More of a, your optimism kind of took the driver's seat more than your realism. And that's a beautiful thing in a lot of ways. But when we're talking from ego, or talking about our ego, that can often lead to a place of denying reality, of not really wanting to participate in reality, of kind of daydreaming, of going into places where we feel more comfortable instead of facing reality. And so, because this doesn't necessarily, we are talking about the past here, but it doesn't necessarily have to pertain to your childhood, right? And the fact that in the future position, we also have a child. I am getting the sense that you are, how do I say this? That you are a very, I want to say young spirit, but I also don't mean that your soul is very young or anything like that. But if we're thinking about the soul's journey, which is to break the chain, I think it takes a lot of fresh perspective to even believe, like, you know what, I am going to break the chain. You know what, I'm not going to do this because an old energy, and that doesn't mean I'm having a hard time explaining this because we have a very specific understanding of what new and old means, or young and old, and I don't actually mean these words in terms of time. I mean young energy as in the hope that comes with that, the worldview that comes with the perspective of a young child, which is that the world is magical and that anything is possible. So there is something where your energy in itself is very okay, I'm getting the most weird analogy here, but the way I'm seeing this is kind of like young energy versus old energy is like Donkey and Shrek. You know how Donkey is just like, all right, like he's just enthusiastic and he's like excited, and Shrek is just kind of like bogged down by the world and doesn't want to deal with people because he's dealt with so much judgment, right? And Donkey has also dealt with a lot of judgment. Donkey has also dealt with a lot of bullshit, right? But Donkey is like, every moment can be better than what I dealt with in the past. And it almost takes, it requires this naive energy. And to break a pattern, it does require this naive energy to believe like, I can just do different. I don't have to do what everyone else in my lineage has done before. So I'm not mad at this at all, right? However, it can lead to this is very delicate. And I think you are somewhat delicate. That's why I'm having a hard time putting this into words. There are things that your soul's journey that are kind of like the big building blocks that require you to embrace this kind of child energy, and yet on a daily basis, right? In the material world, child energy within an adult is judged as dangerous, is judged as naive, is judged as just immature, right? But there's something here where for your soul's journey, it's so conducive to growth, and yet on a everyday material experience, people are telling you, snap out of it, get real, like just like get it together, like they and it's very confusing. I can feel it. It's very disorienting because it's like it makes reality so harsh, which probably then leads you to kind of be drawn more into fantasy. But then that can be really dangerous because what we're really trying to do here with this journey, with this evolution, is to bring that child energy into your immediate reality. And this has to happen in a way where you can integrate the two, the harshness of the world with conserving your child energy. I hope that this makes sense. It has a lot to do with protecting this aspect of yourself, but without without hiding into it. So I'm seeing like the image of a snail with its shell, and it has to do with like, yeah, this is my shell, but not hiding into it. Like, you do have to engage with the world. You cannot hide. You cannot like curl into this fantasy, because you have to engage with the world. And I'm seeing that especially with this priest card. So going from the child magical to the priest card, let me tell you, on the priest card it says, facilitate spiritual commitments, serves as a channel of spiritual energy, shadow attributes, violates the trust of your spiritual community, seduced by your own spiritual role. So going from child magical to priest, there is this feeling of almost retreating to the point where you only connect with people that believe in what you already believe in, right? Because the priest, where are you going to find a priest? In their church. You're not going to find them in other churches. And this is an argument of an archetype of a priest. Of course, I know that many priests are, well, maybe I shouldn't say many, but I know that there are priests out there that are very open to a multitude of religions and that don't limit themselves on a personal basis. But we're talking about the archetype of a priest. The archetype of a priest is going to be in their church, and they're going to speak to people who already believe. And if they don't believe, they're going to try and convert them into believing, right? But again, first and foremost, they can be found in their church where they feel very comfortable. Okay. What I'm picking up on here is a personality that used to be very avoidant, and that has probably found a sense of community. I just have to say it, like I'm almost picking up on like a Disney adult, like the same kind of concept. If you're not a Disney adult, please don't take offense. If you are a Disney adult, please don't take offense. But that's kind of the sense that I'm getting of, you know, that kind of fanaticism almost, because Disney adults are a very specific brand of people, right? But Disney adults get along great with other Disney adults, and they celebrate each other in a way where it's very supportive. It's a community, right? And you can find that with everything, not just Disney adults, but any kind of, like, let's say cosplay, anything where the normal, I shouldn't say normal, where the, I'm trying to find the right words, any kind of expression of self where the social norm of our capitalist society says, hey, that's kind of weird, don't show up like that in the office. Anything like that, right? I'm not saying that one is good or bad or whatever, but society has certain attitudes towards certain things, especially with things that they find childish, right? And it doesn't have to be as childish as that. It can also be you believing in tarot. Some people will find that childish. You believing in astrology, which is a very valid science, but there are people out there. General society as a whole body will often be like, oh yeah, but it's a little childish, right? Who cares what they say? But still, there are certain things, right? Certain sub-genres that we're talking about where when they come together and form a community, they are fully free to express themselves. I'm thinking of like the furry community. Like when they come together, they feel so free, and yet they are still in a bubble, right? They're in a bubble. They're like, hey, we're gonna build a community where all of us can hang out so we don't have to face the judgment of other people who think that this is odd what we're doing, even though it's not. It's just a form of self-expression, right? But we're going to form this bubble, and then we come together, and this is where we feel safe. And that's okay, because that is necessary for you to kind of build up a feeling of safety and also a feeling of confidence. However, once we move to the future, we need to find a way to integrate that into your everyday life. We need to find a way to integrate that into everything you do, not just feeling safe within your community. Because the energy that you have, this child energy, this magical energy, is of benefit not just to other people, but especially to yourself. This is taking something that other people don't find valuable, but that's their loss because it is valuable, finding a community that acknowledges how valuable it is, and then finding a way to integrate into society, knowing that you have that inherent value and that you can share that value and that it will be received. Let me tell you what it says on this card. Child Eternal. Determination to remain young in body, mind, and spirit. Ability to see things with fresh eyes. Shadow attributes. Inability to grow up and be responsible. Extreme dependency on others for physical security. We're going from being avoidant towards finding a way to integrate our young energy, our energy that makes us different, into a societal, into a way where we're not avoiding society. Because here we're being very avoidant. Here we're finding our community, and here we're trying to find a way to integrate. Okay, I got really stuck on trying to fine-tuning that, so I really hope that that makes sense. Let's get some tarot cards on top of these just to give us some more details on how this expresses itself. Yeah, look at that. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, and that's why I'm so happy that this was never beat out of you. I'm so happy that society didn't pressure you into submission. You held on to this, but you did hold on to this in a way that was very avoidant, where you were like, nope, if I can't keep this, then I'm not going to be part of your community. And so you found your own community, which is beautiful because it means that other people needed that too. Because we're talking about current energy here, current ego expression, if you don't feel like you've found your community, you are in the process of doing so. And finding a community that understands you can do wonders for your self-expression and for your confidence, right? It's extremely nourishing. Let's get one card for that. Yeah, look at that. We are grounding a community. We're attracting people that think likewise. I think that's beautiful. And then look at that, the Ace of Cups. Oh, this is beautiful. Are you kidding me? And the King of Pentacles. Yes, yes. You know why I love that the King of Pentacles has come out here? Because the King of Pentacles is grounded. The King of Pentacles, you were so avoidant in the past, so avoidant of the real world, of material. And the King of Pentacles is so secure. The King of Pentacles is so grounded in the material. This is earth energy. You don't have to, part of your journey is getting to a place where you don't have to avoid, where you don't have to do maladaptive daydreaming, where you don't have to escape into another reality, where you don't have to escape into books or movies, where you can bring that energy into your real world. So instead of you escaping into a fantasy, you bring your fantasy into the real world. This is absolutely beautiful. And that comes from a place of really overflowing with this Ace of Cups, overflowing with support and love and self-love, because this community, grounding this energy, is really kind of helping you kind of sustain yourself. this is such a beautiful energy. And especially with the Star card, we see the water that is being poured out here, and then we see the water overflowing here, because this energy that you've had in the past, this place where your ego was, the place where your ego felt safe again, was in fantasy. It was in an avoidant space, which can be really difficult, right? Because you're dealing, especially on an everyday basis, whether that's in school or whether that's at work, you're dealing with people that are constantly snapping you out of it, that are like, hello, can you please pay attention? And they get really impatient when dealing with a drifter. And so all you kind of longed for was to be somewhere else, like constantly wishing to be somewhere else. And your ego just didn't feel safe in the real world. And so you were constantly striving to be somewhere else. And that must have been really exhausting, first of all. But I also think that that comes from a place of kind of readying yourself to change something, because this is such a departure. In order to break a chain, an ancestral pattern, you have to have such a departure from everything that was kind of like the train tracks of your ancestors, of your family history, right? The tracks were so linear, and it's almost like you could see exactly how far the tracks went, and you could see it from your point of view. It was like all you could see was the tracks, the tracks, the tracks, the tracks, off into the distance. It's almost like you could see till like your final destination of exactly where the tracks were going. And it was just like so overwhelming and so depressing that you're like, I'd rather just not stay on the tracks. I'd rather just kind of like wander off on the side, right? Get off the train and wander off into oblivion. But you know what you did by doing that is you were kind of tempted to do that. And by doing that, you're breaking the chain. So this energy was extreme, but it was necessary. And so as you're wandering off from, I just saw the most gorgeous butterfly fly by my window. Like literally came up to the window. And you know what? It was so fast I could barely see it, but it had like little specks, like this marble. How beautiful. Okay, so you're wandering off these tracks, right? And instead of following the tracks because you're like, I can see where that's going and it's depressing, so I'd rather go somewhere else. You're wandering off the tracks and you find a little village, and here you find your community, and you're able to connect with people that are aligned with you, quite literally, with this Eight of Wands, aligned with you. And then from there on, you can establish different patterns. And you can almost, it's like finding this little village off of the tracks and being like, you know what, I'm going to put down roots here. And this is where I start my reality, not where the tracks were leading me. I'm starting my reality where I want to start my reality. My goodness, I just realized I'm going to be going way over with your reading because this was so intricate. Let me just say right now, if you're still here and it doesn't make sense to you, that's okay. These readings today have been very out there. So please don't try and make anything fit. If this is either gonna click or it's not. I'm gonna be doing more grounded readings very soon again, but I was called to do this today, and it will make sense for someone, but not for everyone. Seventh house, absolutely, this is about building community. Oh, I love this. Sagittarius and Pluto. Are you kidding me? This is so beautiful. The seventh house is our house of relationships, but it's not just romantic relationships, it's also like business relationships. So it's literally, how do we interact with other people? How do we build with other people? That is exactly this. Sagittarius is an expansive energy. That is that going off the tracks, and Pluto is breaking the chain. Pluto is being like, I'm going to do things differently, because whatever the tracks that were set out for me are so unhealthy. They're unstable. They're not safe for me. And so you decided to leave the tracks, and I'm so proud of you. And everybody was telling you, like, you're being naive, you're being avoidant, you're being crazy. And you had to, because otherwise you know exactly where it was heading, and you are the one that's breaking the cycle. It almost takes like a certain degree of delusion to be able to break this cycle. And so as we move through this, honestly, like, sorry, I'm talking myself in a frenzy right now. But honestly, our ego, right? Our ego oftentimes gets a bad rep. But this, I think, is a very beautiful reading that recognizes that our ego is meant to keep us safe. And yes, of course, sometimes our ego gets us offended or gets us distracted when we shouldn't be. Yes, sometimes our ego gets us in a place of stagnation. But ultimately, it is helping us along on our soul's journey. And so I think, because this is kind of like the current energy, I think what's really important to recognize here is that you don't get too comfortable in the community that you find, right? Whether you're in the process of finding them right now, once you have that community, you need to expand outside of that community. You need to take it back into the places where you think you're not welcomed, because that's where this Ace of Cups comes in. That's where this beauty comes in. It's the melding of bringing different things together, the melding of I don't even want to say fantasy. I want to say the melding of imagination and reality. Bringing that together is what's going to get you to this King of Pentacles, because you will know, like, you will feel accomplished. You will feel grounded and accomplished. You won't feel the need to avoid reality. You won't feel the need to distract yourself. You'll be able to face reality with an attitude that is very like, I don't have to, like, not everything is the end of the world. Like, I can keep some of that light, young energy and mature into this new road. I think this is beautiful. I'm very proud of you. All right, let's pull some oracle cards to close this out. I'm sorry if it's been bothering you that this is crooked. I've been having trouble getting my camera straight recently. Okay, for group 3, we have darkness. You know what's interesting is that on this Soul's Journey card, these different expressions of people are coming out of this cave. And that's kind of why I was like stuck on this, like this train, the tracks. It felt like train tracks coming out of a tunnel. And you being the first to recognize, oh my God, these tracks just go on and on and on. And so the darkness after Long Night Moon, after the darkness, the sun always rises. And we see that here. Look at the yellow, there's the sun right behind this priest. These, oh, we saw that butterfly, and look at her wings are yellow. There's this star. It's just that it takes a lot of trust for you to be different. And even though in a lot of ways in the past, it came from an egoic place for you to be avoidant of reality, even that takes a lot of guts to, you know, you're very different, and it takes a lot of guts to be different. And so even, look at this path. It almost feels like this bunny like knows, okay, if I follow that path, even though I see nobody like myself, I feel like if I follow that path, I might end up finding this community. That's what I'm seeing here. let's get one last oracle card. Sure. Let go. And offering. We got two. Let go and offering. So right away, I'm recognizing that behind this figure is is a depiction of a full moon, and we saw essentially a new moon. It's kind of weirdly highlighted, but it says darkness, so as a new moon, going from a new moon to a full moon. Interesting journey. But also let go is kind of, it's giving me the sense of, oh, look at this cat also has spots just like our little marble. It's also giving me the sense of let go of your security, and I specifically am hearing let go of your security blanket, which would be that community that we talked about, right? Not necessarily like, oh, let go of them, but integrate what you eventually are learning from this, and integrate that into you stepping back into places and spaces that aren't necessarily as safe or as welcoming as your community. Offering, you have a lot to offer, and I was seeing this in this imagery here, because I do feel like that you would be represented by this this top child, and it's kind of like inspire. Oh, there's a butterfly. Inspiring others to kind of also like integrate back into reality. Like there's just something that's very, especially because we have this King of Pentacles here, there's something that's very inspiring about the way that you see the world, the way that you manage the world, the way that you digest the world. There's something inspiring about that. And so you have a lot to offer, and that is meant to overflow your cup so that it can flow back into communities around you, right? That's the idea of the overflowing Ace of Cups, is that you have enough to give. And so, yeah, you definitely have a lot to offer. And especially going back to the fact that we had the 7th house, you are meant to connect with the outside world, because keeping everything internal, that would be very 1st house energy. But the 7th house is the direct opposite of the 1st house. So it's asking you to pull away from just like being in your own little cave, and kind of stepping out into the world and bringing some of your magic into the world. I love that. This was a beautiful, beautiful reading. So I hope that you enjoyed it. Again, I'm going to be doing some more regular readings very soon. So if this was a lot and kind of confusing, don't worry about it too much. Just take what resonates. Other than that, I hope it was entertaining, and I hope that it confirmed some things, and I do hope I get to read for you again sometime. Until then, take care.